So I want to go into a little bit of detail of some special types of parallelograms that we're going to talk about today. So remember, parallelograms, opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent, consecutive angles are supplementary, the opposite angles are congruent. I think I already said that, but then the diagonals bisect each other. So rhombus, rectangle, and square are special types of parallelograms. So all of those apply to them as well. Okay, so the definition of a rhombus is that four sides are congruent or equal. If you want to put equal, you can say that. Now, a rectangle, by definition, has to have four right angles. That's the most basic definition. While a square is actually a combination of a rhombus and rectangle. So it has, four right angles and four congruent sides. Okay, so that is a rectangle and a rhombus. So let's talk about some of the things that are special about a rhombus. Now remember, anything I say special about a rhombus is also going to be special about a square. So first off, diagonals are perpendicular. So we use this little symbol to say perpendicular. That just means, R. That just means they form a right angle at the intersection. The other thing is that diagonals bisect the angles, the opposite angles. Now remember, bisect means it cuts exactly in half. So the diagonals are cutting the angles exactly in half. So those angles will be congruent. So what that means, if I show this picture, is right here, that diagonal would mean that this little angle right here is going to be the same size as that little angle over here. Okay, because they bisect, it cuts it in half. Now, specific to rectangles, the only big thing is that diagonals are congruent. Or that they're equal. So a square, the special properties are all of the above. So remember, a square is both a rhombus and a rectangle, so everything applies to a square. So let's go ahead and talk about that with some specific problems. So right now on number 1, we have a rhombus. So remember, the big thing you need to remember about rhombus is that something special with the angles and the diagonals. So one thing is that it cuts at a 90-degree angle on a rhombus. So that means angle 2 is easy to find. That's just 90 degrees. The next thing that's important to know is that angle 1 and angle 4 have to be congruent because they are cut exactly in half by the diagonal. So angle 1 is equal to angle 4, and I should really put measure of angle. There we go. So we'll figure out what that is in a second. And then angle 3 is going to be separate because it's along a different diagonal. So angle 3, the measure of angle 3 is going to equal something else. Now, if this is 58 degrees, that tells us this angle right here is also 58. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Which tells us over here is 58, and so is 3. So that's 58 degrees. Okay, so we've got a measure of angle 3. That's 58 degrees. Now, it's going to be helpful to know what the total right here is. So if I take that 58 and times it by 2, or just add it twice, you get 116 degrees. So this little angle, this whole big angle is 116. So what's going to be helpful is figuring out what the big angle over here is. And remember, parallelograms, those are supplementary. So we're going to find that by doing 180 degrees minus the 116. Okay, so 180 minus the 116 is 64 degrees. So that's 64 degrees. Which means over here is also 64 degrees. Now angle 1 and angle 4, remember, are cut exactly in half, so it's exactly half of 64, or 32 degrees. And that would be your answer for all of those. So when I was recording this, I realized there was a typo on my page, and I don't know what it should have been, but this problem didn't work on number 2. So I fixed it. We're going to pretend this is 3x minus 22 degrees, and then go ahead and solve it. It will now work. So the thing with rhombus is that the diagonal bisects the angle. So we've got our two angles. They are congruent because it's bisected or cut right in half. So since they're congruent, I can just go ahead and say 2x plus 3 has to equal 3x minus 22. So then to solve this, I would just add 22 to both sides. So I have 2x plus 25 equals 3x. And then I can subtract 2x from both sides. And you end up with 25 is equal to x. And there it is.